DLD Motivational Moment. I am Donald L. Dowrich Jr. I am thankful to be able to come to you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, I come with a special edition of the Motivational Moment at this time. I'm reminded of what was told to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when Dr. King spoke out on the Vietnam War. And everyone, if you will, began to get upset at Dr. King because they said that he was stepping out of his boundaries when he spoke on the Vietnam War. And here I am. A lot of people know me as motivational speaker, guru, work with kids, Frederick Douglass. And someone at the end of this broadcast will say probably he is out of his lane. He needs to step back in his lane. I will also say that unlike the turbulent 60s and 50s and 40s and even 70s, just think about it. A black man or even a black woman nerve enough to discuss what I'm going to discuss today on this broadcast was assured of a life being cut short. Well, here we are, 2018, and first of all, I was going to let you know, I've never been the type who was afraid of speaking the truth, even if it means doors shutting in my face, even if it means being cut out of the good life, even if it means having people turn their backs on me, because I know what the pain is. I've been through the pain. There's going to be a few times of this broadcast you're going to see me wiping my brow because I am sitting here under the lights. But I just want to bring focus on what's important and what is about to happen in this country, this America. And I'll be the first to stand up and say, I love this country. I love this America. I am pro-America. I'll be the first to stand up strong and say, because of issues that's happening in this America, I will take the knee. I am a former, or should I say, I am a veteran. I served in the United States Army, and I'm proud to have served for this country. Would I do it again? If I was young enough, I'll serve again, because I love America. However, I must put a B-U-T in there, but America has issues. Don't get me wrong. I love you, America. And we are getting ready, people, to embark on what is known as the 2018 midterm elections. If you don't know by now, listen to me. This is a matter of life and death. Some people who know me personally know that I am a writer. I've written many pieces in my life, and to be honest with you, I love writing. Well, I'm going to share with you real quick something that I wrote October the 27th, 2000. That's 18 years ago, during what was coming up to be the elections. Ladies and gentlemen, today of this recording is October the 24th, 2018. In a few weeks, November the 6th, 2018. And what day is that? Okay, just want to make sure. And what I started out with, as you saw, I voted. I want to share with you this piece that I wrote. Now keep in mind, this is the year 2000. See if you can place this piece, this poem, which is entitled, Don't You Just Sit There. Don't you just sit there. Year 2000, 2018. Some things have changed in 18 years. However, some things have remained the same. Long ago, here in America, a people could not vote. A people had no type of hope. The racists played unlawful mind games. How many hairs on a rabbit? How many sparks are there in a flame? A people living, working, and socializing with a face of frowns. Don't you just sit there. A president helped fight for equal rights, meeting with the SCLC, Rainbow Push, NAACP, and the Urban League through the night. Don't you just sit there. Now keep in mind, this is not now. Let us keep this real. Let's keep this real because the current administration did not, would not, will not meet with the mentioned SCLC, Rainbow Push, NAACP, the Urban League, or any other kind of black league, if you will. I know we use that political correct African American league or organization. Don't you just sit there when one says, oh, they all are just the same. My vote don't count. And I'll be honest with you, at one time I was guilty. My vote don't count. They ain't gonna do nothing for me. It ain't about me. It's about we the people. Don't be selfish with this. Be unselfish. Make your vote count. You're right. Your vote don't count if you decline to vote. And I put the N on it, no doubt. There will always be the individuals who just don't care. These individuals want a free ride through life. That's not fair. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people, yes we do, in our culture, in our race, that want a free ride. Somebody owe them something. Nobody owe anybody anything. We got to get out and we got to get this thing. We got to go out and we got to make it happen. Don't just sit there. That's for all of us. If you're in the voting range, make it happen. Real quick, just to get off topic, sidebar. We got people who have done their time, served their time. Why they can't vote? Think about it. We need their votes too. I think there's an amendment on this year's ballot about that same subject. It's very unfortunate that some people within a people take voting as a joke. Listen, realize this. By not voting, you miss the boat. You miss it. It's gone. It done left the harbor. Don't you just sit there. In conclusion, many people with diverse backgrounds lost their lives. So we, the people of this current state, this current moment, this current time, can vote. So that we can go to the vote. So that we can early vote. So we can mail in our ballots early. The history of America, the history of a people is at stake. This should be told and it should be realized that, wait a minute, don't you just sit there. Get up and go cast your vote. These words are implanted within your ears and your mind. Now put these words in your soul and vote November the 6th, 2018. I just changed that because originally it says November the 7th, 2000. That will be right on time. Again, don't you just sit there. Cast your vote. I got some notes here that I took doing some research on voting. It's important to know why we vote. It's important the reason why we vote. Some people vote. Some people raise saying about voting, the importance of voting, but do they realize why they're voting? Do they realize when voting came into existence? Well, if you don't, because many people don't, to be honest with you, these notes that I got, I didn't know. That's why I said, let me research and bring it to you so you'll really know why you're voting. Who brought voting to life? Let's check this out. The importance of voting. The gentleman's name is W.R. Ware. That's W-A-R-E. Again, his name is W.R. Ware. He was a professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He brought voting to life in the year of 1870. Alright? I didn't even know that. I just found that out today. Research. And I didn't have to go to Massachusetts to research it. I just jumped on my computer. Modern technology at its best. Moving on. August the 6th, 1965. I believe I was 9 years old, living in Baltimore, Maryland. President Lyndon Bang Johnson signed what is known as the Voting Rights Act, outlawing discriminatory voting practices adopted in many southern states after the Civil War. So if you understand what this is saying, that during the Civil War, there were blacks that were in slavery. During the Civil War, there were blacks that were being hung. During the Civil War, blacks joined the war, all right? Not only to fight for the Confederate, but also to fight for their freedom. That's before Mr. Ware came along in 1870 and brought about what we know as voting. Moving on. Looking back before the year 1965 in this Make America Great, I said it, the history shines light on a people who were considered second class. These people who I was born into these second class people, gained voting rights as the 19th Amendment. The 19th Amendment gave black folks in this country the right. Don't mean if they got the right, but it don't mean they could go up to the polls and vote. They had the right. But going to the polls mean their life. Again, all right, these people who I was born into gained voting rights as the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution was passed in 1920. 1920, I think that was during the Renaissance era, if you will. As stated, this passing was geared towards not the black man, but the black woman being able to vote. The black woman was able to vote. Black men. Let's look at the black man. For the black man in this Make America Great state, I said it again, February the 3rd, 1870, the promise of the 15th Amendment would not be fully recognized for a whole century. All right, so a whole century, that's 100 years. It states February the 3rd, 1870. A century, 100 years. That brings it up to 1970. 1970, and just to put it all in perspective, 5 years after the Voting Rights Act was signed by President Johnson, black men in this country were still not allowed to vote. Wait a minute. Civil rights movement. Wait a minute. Dr. Martin Luther King, Ralph Abernathy. Wait a minute. SNCC. Wait a minute. SCLC. I can go on and on. Who marched day in, day out. Churches were full. Wait a minute. Those 3 little girls. Wait a minute. That doctor in the Birmingham jail. Wait a minute. Those 3 civil rights workers. Wait a minute. Emmett Till. Malcolm X. All because it tied into the black race fighting for not just integration, but freedom. Not just freedom, but a greater aspect of this whole picture to V-O-T-E, vote. Mr. Thomas Monday Peterson, get a hold of this. You question, who is Mr. Thomas Monday, M-U-N-D-Y, Peterson? No, he's not a famous football player. No, he's not the grandson of Adrian Peterson, the football player. But Mr. Thomas Monday Peterson, he lived from October the 6th, 1824 to February the 4th, 1904. He lived for 80 years on this planet. He was born in Perth, that's P-E-R-T-H, Amboy, A-M-B-O-Y, and this town still exists in New Jersey. Who was this fella? Who was this black man? Well, he was the first black to vote under the just enacted provisions of the 15th Amendment. He snuck. He sneaked. All right? To cast his vote. And he cast that vote. Get ready now. Get ready. All right? I mentioned 1870 earlier. I mentioned February the 3rd, 1870. Get ready. February the 3rd. A month later and some. So we're looking at March the 31st, 1870. Mr. Thomas Monday Peterson, my brother, cast his vote. Now I know you're wondering, wow, did they catch him? Did they hang him? Did they kill him? Well, as a matter of fact, no they didn't. And as the story is told, he became a principal of a school. And not only that, later on in life, they gave him his own day and the city raised money to buy him an award that he wore every day. It states that he was very proud of that award that the city gave him. And they also state that right to this day, in 2018, they still celebrate him with his own day. Come on. Because he had the gall. And he knew the importance of voting in 1870. As soon as they opened up the doors, this brother was there. No matter what. Hang me, I'm going to vote. What are you going to do? Early ballots. What are you going to do? Early voting. What are you going to do? November the 6th, 2018. Miss Mary Church Terrell, though she was not the first black woman, it is listed as she was one of the first black women to vote in her lifetime, which spanned from the year or the date of September the 23rd, 1863 until July 24th, 1954. Again, I'll say it again. Her name was Mrs., because she was married, Mary Church Terrell. From September the 23rd, 1863 until July 24th, 1954. And if you study black history, you will know that Miss Mary Church Terrell played a major role in the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Check her name out. Moving on to the 1960s. America had great issues with what seemed like a crisis at every turn. And if you were here in the 1960s, you know the pain and agony that black folks went through in those 1960s. I mean, myself, I was a child. The only thing that I remember besides what I'm going to talk about later is 1968, the assassination of Dr. King, and how that played a pivotal role on the household I lived in, and the block that I lived on, and the city that I lived in of Baltimore when they rioted. Can I remember anything else going back? Well, I'll be the first to say, unfortunately, no. And there's other men and women of my age now who were kids back then, probably were inserted more into what was going on personally on the civil rights front. I look back and I'm kind of sorry that I didn't get a taste of that. But there is one incident. There are a few incidents that I got a taste of. One I'll share a little later. Moving on, when the scene turned to voting rights for blacks in the South, it was murderous. We look at the sit-ins, the police beatings, the killings. Sound familiar, huh? Black clergies being spat on because they just wanted to cast their vote. That's all they wanted to do, was just cast their vote. They just wanted to have a say in the American way. And that is to V-O-T-E. What are you going to do? Who cannot mention Miss Fannie Lou Hamer? Powerful sister. A black woman who was determined to cast her vote. She was determined to be heard and assured blacks had a seat in the 1964 Democratic Convention. Yes, she did. I remember personally seeing a clip where she was being interviewed, I think it was by Walter Cronkite on CBS. And she was saying on that clip that, you know, when the cameras are rolling, they're nice to us. But as soon as they turn those cameras off, they calling us the N-word, they pushing us, they shoving us, they wouldn't even give us a seat. And then Mr. Cronkite, he would go forth and ask her more questions. And believe it or not, when it was all said and done, who had a seat at the convention? Miss Fannie Lou Hamer and her troops, if you will, from Mississippi. They sat right there in that 1964 Democratic Convention. Right on. She opened that door. Yes, she did. She opened it. She pried it open, and it will never be shut again. This is a taste of what blacks in this Make America state suffered through. Senator Robert F. Kennedy, who I had the great blessings and pleasure of meeting his brother at the White House in the first grade. His brother, President John F. Kennedy. when our class, Turner Station Elementary, my first grade class, we took a field trip to the White House. And I had the pleasure of meeting President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. 5 months later, the rest is history. However, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, the F stands for Fitzgerald, mentioned in 1968 that America will see its first black president in 40 years. 1968, 2008. Who was elected president of these United States? The 40-year mark happened in 2008 when the people, black people, white people, and all the people who fall under the democracy of the Democrat voted in its first black president. And my great-grandmother, I recall her saying, baby, you will never see a black president in your lifetime. And the moment that CNN announced President Barack Obama as president, I could hear her. And my heart went out to her. But it was a joyous occasion to see it happen in my lifetime. To see it happen in your lifetime. The polls, right? The polls, P-O-L-L-S, and cast your vote. Right? Cast your vote. Mr. Obama, not one term, but 2 terms. And if you caught the news today, right, there's a lunatic who took the liberty of mailing pipe bombs. And one of those pipe bombs were intended for Mr. and Mrs. Obama, Mr. and Mrs. Clinton, and the list go on. And as it states that someone out there of lunatic attire is taking it upon themselves after listening to, now I'm not going to accuse, but listening to the rhetoric. Surely they will catch him. But getting back on point, here we are a few weeks from the crucial 2018 midterm election. Are you going to be there? I'm stating, nowhere in this Make America Great country is this election more substantial than here in the state of Florida. This state is on the brink of making history by electing its first black governor, Mayor Andrew Gillum, who is currently the mayor of Tallahassee, Florida, which is the capital of this great state of Florida. What are you going to do? Is history going to be made? See, I can't tell you who to vote for. My charge is to make sure that people vote. Vote for who your conscience guides you to vote for, but vote. This is America. Land of the free, home of the brave. Vote. It's only 4 letters. V-O-T-E. The question is, will it come to pass? As it stands, early voting has begun. Mail-in ballots are in effect. November the 6th, 2018 is like a minute and a half away. A minute and a half away, November the 6th. How long will those lines be? Will there be caravans to the polls? Will there be convoys to the polls? I saw a picture of when South Africa was voting for Nelson Mandela. Lines were yay long. I mean, lines were longer than the state of Florida. How long were you willing? As a matter of fact, when the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, passed, the lines were yay long. How long are you willing to stand in that line to cast what is yours? The vote. Cast what somebody died for. The vote. Cast what somebody gave up for. the vote. Are you going to vote? That's it. That's all you... This whole presentation is basically, are you going to vote? And if you're not, why not? What's your excuse? None. Blacks mainly in this state have no excuse when it comes to voting. We don't have any excuse. We can't make up an excuse. We can't phantom excuse. Because our history is written all over the walls. It's in stone. It seeps through the stone grounds. It hangs from the trees. Our history, our blood. It's millions who lay 6 feet deep, who are ice cold. It's in the riverbanks. It's in the ponds. It's the nameless. It's the voiceless. It's the Martin Luther Kings. It's the Adam Clayton Powells. It's the Angela Davises. It's the R.C. Davis. It's our black fathers and mothers. It's our grands. It's their grands. Just think about it. Think about it. Just take a minute. Check you out. Look in the mirror. And just study for a second. You are the grand. You are the great, 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 great grand of a slave. You are a great great of some woman, some man that probably got beat down in the middle of the streets because they wanted to VOTE. Your grand was confronted by those fellas with those white sheets on. Probably terrorized, probably got the houses burned down. Think about this, how important this is. So you think about your sisters, your brothers, who probably has gone on, your uncles, your aunts who have gone on, and even the ones that are here now that are in their 70s and 80s, that can tell you the stories, the 90s, that can tell you the stories, the 100s, that can tell you the stories of what they have seen in their lifetime as a black person in this country and what it means to them. 110 years old, still here casting their vote because they believe in the vote. They seen what happened that we did not see, the vote. We talk about our sisters, our brothers, and think about our children. Our children. I always hear them say our children, our future. Well, think about our future. Think about our children that will take the baton and move forward with it. Will they be able to cross the finish line in victory? The only way they're going to cross the line in the future in victory is that we cast our vote now. And no excuses across the board. I don't care where you are, what your economic situation is in this life. Your vote counts. Black folks, as the elders would say, don't excuse ourselves out of this. There's no excuse in the world that can excuse you, me, out of casting the vote. Don't be selfish, meaning when we say they ain't doing nothing for me. Check out my verbiage. They ain't doing nothing for me. Why should I cast my vote? Well, as I said earlier, it ain't about you. It ain't about me. It's about us. Us the people as a whole. When we can get past that me and understand we, understand us, think about how far we truly will travel in this society. We are the people who seek freedom, equality, rights, and democracy in these United States 2018 moving forward. Make this our time to show those who don't care that we really care. Because the talk is out there. The $1 million bet is not the $1 billion lottery. At this time, sure, that person that won that lottery in, what is it, North Carolina, South Carolina, they set. And others have done won too. But the moral of the story is, what's bigger than that? Man, ain't nothing bigger than that, Don. Shoot, the money's, that's what it is. That's the money. Well, you know what? You win the lottery, chances are, like so many who have won the lottery, 2 years later, they're what? They're filing what? Thank you. The vote is more important. So back to what I was saying. The $1 million bet is not the $1 billion lottery. It's the blacks, the poor Hispanics, and the whites who care less about a vote. So what I'm doing right now, doing this broadcast, I'm a nobody. People know me, DLD, but I'm a nobody. But I'm taking this time to plead with anybody who is looking at this video. I'm pleading with you that we all need to band together and make our vote truly count in this 2018 midterm election. Let's commit to do this proudly for all of our forefathers and mothers who could and dread not to vote, or else it was death that they faced. When we vote, we don't have to worry about death, because they fought and they died for us to be here today and to vote. And lastly, as I get ready to wrap up, because I know I done taken up much of your time, but I hope you got the message. VOTE. Sincerely. Lastly, personally, why do I vote? I've been voting ever since I was the age of 19. I turned 18 in 1976. My 18th birthday was right here in Tampa, Florida. 19, I cast my first vote. And the reason it was 19 because I didn't turn, it was 19, I think it was. But I didn't turn 18 until after. Though my birthday's in November, I didn't turn 18 until after the vote. If I am not serious about anything in life, and people who know me, they know I laugh a lot, they know I, tend to tell, maybe one or two jokes, one too many. And people who know me, they know I'm a happy person. They know that I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. All right, let's put it out there. But they don't know how serious I am about voting. I will die to vote. A short story, I believe it was 1964, 1965. I was in my second foster home. The gentleman I was with was my foster father, Mr. Mars, who, I'll be honest with you, the dude was a father. And he treated me like a son. He educated me as much as I could. It wasn't him and his wife, the beautiful Mrs. Mars, who were the terrors. It was the other ones that were in that home, if you will. However, Mr. Mars and I were on a day trip heading into the city of Baltimore because we lived in Turner Station. As a matter of fact, 307 Pine Street. That's where we lived at, in Turner Station. If you're familiar with Baltimore and if you are familiar with Turner Station, well, Main Street leads down to Pine Street. That's where we resided at back in the days. And that was in Turner Station. But in any event, as we were, I think it's Sparrow Point, I think it is. I can't remember the exact, Dundalk Boulevard or whatever it was. So anyway, we had a light. And as we had a light, it is noticed there's 4 white teenagers approaching us. And I think we were in a 1964 comic station wagon. And I used to love that back window in there. That was a bad window, boy. That window wasn't nothing to play with. These 4 teens approached us. 2 went on Mr. Morris' side of the car, 2 went on my side of the car. Keep in mind, I said this was 1964-65, so that would have made me 8 or 9 years old. And this is a moment that I will never forget in my life. These 4 gentlemen, 2 on each side, had eggs in their hands. The windows were down. It was a hot day that day. And these young men commenced to taking these eggs and smashing them in our faces. And calling us the N-word. And if we didn't get out of that town, Dundalk at the time, which was a very segregated town. However, if you lived in Turner Station, you had to go through Dundalk to get into Baltimore, the city. And if you don't get your N-word self out of here, we will hang you. We will kill you right now. These are teenagers. Mr. Mars was in his 50s. Eggs spattered all over our face, all over our clothes. That was a moment there. So, why do I vote? Why do I vote like I do? I hear people around me, I'm not voting. No, I didn't vote. Why? Hey, as much as I would love for all of us black folks to vote, don't worry, I will vote. Don't worry. I am registered. I take pride in this. So that's why I am a proud black man. Because of what I've seen other blacks go through. What I've read about what blacks have gone through. Even in the role that I play as Frederick Douglass. And his fight, his plight for black folks in this country. His fight, his plight for women in this country. To be able to vote. To fight for the freedom to stand tall and recognize when we look in the mirror that I am somebody. That I was born to be somebody. That I live this life to conquer. I know I'm only here for a few minutes, if you will. But in the few minutes that God has granted me, I'm going to live it to the fullest. I'm going to give it my all. That should be one's oath. To live your life to the fullest and be the best that you can be each and every day. And to take advantage in a positive way of the freedom that we have as Americans. The freedom to wake up as we do and move about as we do. To go where we please. That's the freedom. And not only that, to exercise our right to V-O-T-E, vote in the 2018 midterm vote election, if you will. So I'm saying as I close, exercise your right to vote. Stand up, voice up, vote up. Again, stand up, voice up, vote up. Now, no excuses. Hashtag My Vote Count 2018. I love you. You have been tuned into the special motivational moment. I am always, as usual, your host, Donald L. Dowrich Jr. I love you like that. Peace like that. VOTE like that.